All right, sometimes when I'm just showing you guys how I do this. I used to have a shirt like that. My wife has seen it. So beautiful are the mountains at the feet of God's messengers. You see the sun, but mostly you can feel it in the spirit.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Nottingham channel. Thank you for joining me here today. I am out of YouTube purgatory, where I was just stuck, not able to tell you that I was blocked or anything like that, but they took me away for a week, but I'm back now, and that means that taking me away means I'm right over the head of what's really going on, so I'm very excited about that. As you can tell, it's very early here. The sun hasn't even really begun to rise yet. But I did want to give you guys this update before the day got going. As you can see, the street lights are still on, so yeah, it's early here. But I have made some observations and some notes, and the Lord has been speaking to me about the book of Esther recently, and so I thought I would look at it, and the Lord told me that He's set up 45's return like Esther. So it's a very biblical parallel to the book of Esther, and we are going to explain how. So many people in this season are wondering what's going on, where is God in all of this? There seems to be an absence of the Lord from the nation, right? The temple or Jerusalem or the law. See what I did there? So there's an absence of God, but then I continued to parallel the book of Esther. So in the book of Esther, there was an absence of the mention of God, the temple, Jerusalem, or the law. And many people feel like there's an absence of the Lord now. And you could replace temple, Jerusalem, or the law with freedom or things like that. And the major theme of the book of Esther is that it's God's sovereign power to work, even through pagans, which would be the left, in order to preserve, which I would say is happening through current events now, and deliver, return of 45 in the remnant church, His people, the church, the enemy of God's people, the left, cannot prevail over His purposes even when God Himself seems strangely absent. Okay? So let me read that without just so you get the biblical parallel of it. And then I'll read it just as it was, if it was written today. So, even through pagans, in order to preserve and deliver His people, the enemy of God's people cannot prevail over His purposes even when God Himself seems strangely absent. So, if I were to read that in modern text, even through the left's order to persevere through current events and deliver return of 45, the church, the enemy of God's people, the left, cannot prevail over His purposes even when God Himself seems strangely absent. So it's super similar and super parallel to the book of Esther. And here's the thing about the book of Esther. It was a secular book, right? It was written to be taken as history, which is another thing we're in now. We're in this monumental moment of history. So you can see that is still happening. Just like Genesis is history. Like I got my In the Beginning shirt. So, guys, I just wanted to point that out. So
Love the shirt. Love the shirt.
What's the main point of the book of Esther? The main point, so we've set up what Esther is in terms of what it is. And we've set up the biblical parallel in terms of it was a secular book written for history, and we've set up what was established for the purpose of the book. But if you could sum it up in one sentence, what would the main point of that book be? It would be this. God enjoys setting up dramatic results. That would be as simple as it could be. And that is exactly what we're seeing now. God is setting up this thing to deliver us in a dramatic fashion. It's going to be a dramatic result, and it's going to be super exciting, and we will see massive celebration, and I myself will have no way to know how I'm going to react to be able to contain that. I'm very excited for it. So, the story of Esther is essentially, for those of you who aren't super familiar with it, I should have probably said this earlier, but I'm going to say it now, is a Jewish girl and her older cousin saved their people from a massacre in ancient Persia. Okay, so that is what the story is about. If you were to have a one-sentence summary of what that story is, that's what that story is about. So here's some perspective on it. Mordecai took responsibility for his cousin after her parents died. Okay, that would be the older cousin. He did this work with integrity. So we could read it again in the same way we did earlier with a modern perspective on it in replacing these words. Mordecai, 45, took responsibility for his cousin after her parents died. You could say, you could insert election, you could insert country, you could insert USA, any types of, for that. For parents died, which would be, what we're waiting on the deliverance of. He did his work, 45, with integrity. He, 45, didn't suck up to the powerful, the left. He, 45, stood up for his people, all Americans. He thought before he acted, returned before he returned. So you can read that again. So now we've established the biblical parallel between the book of Esther and today. Now we've established the biblical parallel between Mordecai and 45, okay? So you can read it again. Here's Mordecai without the parallel to 45. So it would say this: Mordecai took responsibility for his cousin after her parents died. He did his work with integrity. He didn't suck up to the powerful. He stood up for his people. He thought before he acted. Okay, and here's an important scripture verse from the book of Esther. Esther 4:14, this is from the NIV. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Boy, does that speak to now. Remember, because Johnny Enlow is famous, to me anyway, for saying the world will be known as before Trump and after Trump. And that is exactly what we're seeing with these parallels to the book of Esther. God is setting up dramatic results, which is the summary in one sentence of what the main point of what God is trying to tell you through the book of Esther is. He can do it, and he does do it in dramatic fashion. Okay? So if you were going to read that in a modern, interpretation of it, you could say this: who knows but that you, 45, have come to your royal position, President, for such a time as this. So when you take a look at all of that together, the biblical parallels between the book of Esther and today is pretty exciting to me, because it shows that God likes to work in parallels, which we know with Old Testament and New Testament fulfillments. So, Jesus is the new Adam and things like that. This is just the way God works. And you can see it in today's news. Most people are thinking, what's going on? Where is God in all of this? Well, I just told you where he is. He's in the book of Esther right now. And I suggest you to go read it, because you will find out that God really is working, and we will see the fulfillment of his word, because he's...
Introducing Discover Online Privacy Protection. We'll help.
What I'm doing today is talking about something that we need to remember during the end and the wind down of this prophetic season.